Hola chicos, soy Miss Schaefer y hoy vamos a hablar de gramática de capítulo 1b, and specifically we're going to talk about definite and indefinite articles. This grammar section is on página 60 de su texto, so if you want to go there to see this in your book or to see some extra practice, you can feel free to do that. There's also a little Gramactiva video that you can watch for some extra help. Now before we get started, let's look at our big question for this video. How do I use indefinite and definite articles with masculine and feminine verbs? So we're going to need to talk about a couple main things to answer this question. First of all, we're going to need to discuss what are indefinite and definite articles. We're going to talk about this in both English and in Spanish. Also, we're going to need to talk about the difference between masculine and feminine verbs. This is something that we don't really have in English, so we'll talk about what this looks like in Español. Please go ahead and write this question on your notes. If you need to pause this video, you can do that. And we're going to move on to talk about these ideas. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is definite and indefinite articles. I think sometimes we throw some terms around that we're unclear with what it even means in English. So before we start, I want to talk about what this means in English. Definite articles are things that are showing a definite item. We usually use the. For example, the dog. We're not saying just any dog, we're saying the dog. I want the dog. You're probably talking about a specific dog. An indefinite article is a or an. This is something that's not definite. I want a dog. Doesn't matter which dog, you just want a dog. I want an apple. You're not choosing a specific one. Now in Spanish, el and la are called definite articles. These are the equivalent of the. So when you're talking about a specific thing, for example, I want the dog, you'd say quiero el perro. The is going to be the more specific thing, which is the same as el or la in Spanish. El is used with the masculine nouns, and la is used with the feminine nouns. We've already seen some of these words with their definite articles. Now remember, usually a word ending in O is going to be masculine, and usually a word ending in A is going to be feminine. This isn't all the time. I know it's a little bit weird. Why is a book masculine? Why is a folder feminine? You just kind of have to memorize it, and we'll talk about a hint for doing that. But if we want to refer to a specific one of these things, we'll use el or la, and this is how you see your nouns on the list of vocabulary. Un and una are called indefinite articles, and they're the equivalent of a or an in English. So when you want to talk about something that's not particular in Spanish, you'll use un or una, just like you would use a or an in English. Un is used with masculine nouns, and una is used with feminine nouns, just like we talked about above. Remember that the a on the end of this can kind of give you a hint that it's supposed to be with feminine nouns, which will usually end in a as well. On this page, we have a chart of the words that we just talked about. I would highly recommend that you write this down on your notes. So here we have the masculine and the feminine, and the masculine and the feminine. And up here are the definite articles, and down here are the indefinite articles. Go ahead and pause if you need to. The last thing that I want to talk about is just a strategy for memorizing these. Sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming to think, okay, not only do I need to know these words, but I also need to know whether they're masculine or feminine. So one thing that will help you is if you are saying these words out loud, and when you do that, then you hear them as well. You're also reading them when you do this. So when you learn a new noun, say it aloud, and make sure that you include its definite article as often as you can. After a while, you'll start to think of words that just sound right. This is actually often how I figure out whether a word is masculine or feminine. Some of them I have memorized really well, but some of them I don't remember it from memorization. I just know what sounds right. And this will help you know whether nouns are masculine or feminine. To finish this lesson, let's come back to our original question. How do I use indefinite and definite articles with masculine and feminine verbs? And I think that the best thing that you can do here is even just to draw that chart again. Or maybe we'll do it a little bit different this time. So let's do this. Masculine, feminine, and we'll do definite and indefinite. Now, if you want to just make a little mark for yourself to remind you what definite and indefinite articles are, maybe it would be smart to put a, an, and the next to these. So for masculine definite, we have el, and for feminine definite, we have la. For masculine indefinite, we have un, and for feminine indefinite, we have una. Remember that this a on the end of la and una can help you remember because often feminine nouns will end in an a. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or ask me in class, but I hope that this helped you better understand the usage of articles in Espanol.